Just when fans believed Shannon Sharpe had taken a hard fall after his stunning departure from ESPN, he finally speaks out, and what he shares changes everything. But what truly heightens the intensity of this moment is that it all unfolds as his brother, Sterling Sharpe, celebrates a major career milestone. Family loyalty, long-buried emotions, and the real story behind Shannon's exit are now coming to light. You won't believe what he's just confessed. Shannon Sharpe has never been the type to stay quiet, whether he was dominating on the football field, sitting behind the debate desk, or standing firm in the face of controversy. He's earned a reputation for being unapologetically raw, passionate, and straightforward. Yet, after his abrupt and headline-making departure from ESPN, fans were left scratching their heads with more questions than answers. Why would one of the most iconic voices in sports broadcasting suddenly walk away from the limelight? Was it due to creative clashes, a personal rift, or something more complicated? Something that might even involve his family? Shannon Sharpe has finally broken his silence, and the timing couldn't be more emotional, coming just as brother. NFL great Sterling Sharpe marks a long overdue milestone, potentially signaling a long-awaited Hall of Fame nod. Shannon's heartfelt message has resurfaced and is now grabbing attention across the entire sports landscape. In this video, we're digging deep to uncover what truly led to Shannon Sharpe's unexpected ESPN departure. How is Sterling Sharpe's recent accomplishment connected to Shannon's emotional response? What did Shannon say that left fans and former coworkers in disbelief? And could there be an even bigger story underneath it all, one about legacy, family ties, and unfinished chapters? What's happening behind the curtain goes beyond talk shows and Hall of Fame honors. This is a story about two brothers, both legendary in their own ways, grappling with fame, expectations, personal pride, and private pain. Stay tuned, because what Shannon just revealed may forever change how the world sees him. Shannon Sharpe didn't merely shift from NFL legend to sports media star, he completely took over the space. After a historic career as a tight end, winning 3 Super Bowl rings and donning a Hall of Fame gold jacket, many would have faded quietly into the background, but not Shannon. He had much more to say, and the world was ready to hear it. When he joined Fox Sports 1's Undisputed alongside Skip Bayless in 2016, it changed the face of sports debate shows. Shannon wasn't just another retired athlete filling a chair. He brought unmatched energy, a sharp mind for the game, and, most of all, a cultural voice that resonated with viewers across age groups and backgrounds. Whether he was puffing a cigar in defiance of a ridiculous hot take, donning a goat mask to honor LeBron James, or passionately speaking on mental health, in sports, Shannon Sharpe quickly became a spokesperson for players and fans who felt overlooked by mainstream media. But what viewers didn't always see was the rising tension behind the scenes. As the show's ratings soared, so did the clashes between Shannon and Skip. Their on-air chemistry was fiery, but sometimes too fiery. While debate shows thrive on drama, certain moments clearly went beyond just performance and bordered on personal. One particularly heated exchange occurred in late 2022, when Skip Bayless interrupted and undermined Shannon's concerns over NFL safety protocols. This came just days after the horrifying collapse of Damar Hamlin on the field. Shannon, deeply affected, tried to speak from the perspective of a former player but was abruptly cut off. The clip quickly went viral. Viewers flooded social media, slamming Skip for being disrespectful and commending Shannon for staying composed. But according to insiders, that moment, something broke not just within the show but within Shannon's trust. From that moment forward, the energy shifted. Shannon began to display signs of irritation, emotional distance, and eventually disinterest. What once felt like playful banter now started to seem tense. And as ESPN and other networks began circling, with massive offers and promises of creative control, Shannon found himself rethinking his position within the sports media machine. He wasn't merely a co-host, he was the attraction. He had built a brand that could stand on its own, beyond the debate desk and outside scripted production. With his rapidly growing Club Shay Shay podcast, his countless guest appearances, and his commanding presence on social media, the message became more and more obvious. Shannon Sharpe no longer needed the system. Still, he stayed until the pressure finally became too much. Just as ESPN was ramping up negotiations with him behind the scenes, something unexpected occurred. A major milestone was unfolding for his brother. Sterling Sharpe, a man whose legacy still holds a deep emotional resonance for Shannon. And that's when things got complicated. Because just as Shannon was preparing to walk away from one legacy, his brother's was finally being recognized the way it always should have been. While Shannon Sharpe was taking over the world of sports media, one name never drifted far from his thoughts: Sterling Sharpe, his older brother, long before Shannon ever caught an NFL pass. Sterling was the star. He was the Sharpe that NFL scouts couldn't stop raving about, a 5-time Pro Bowl wide receiver with the Green Bay Packers. Sterling Sharpe was on a trajectory to become one of the all-time greats. He played the game with unmatched precision, intensity, and passion, amassing over 8,000 receiving yards and 65 touchdowns in only 7 seasons. But everything changed in 1994 when a neck injury abruptly ended his career. Shannon, still early in his own NFL journey at the time, never forgot the impact that moment had on his family. While Shannon would go on to win 3 Super Bowls, Sterling's name gradually faded from national conversation. No Hall of Fame call, no tribute, no documentary, just silence. And Shannon never moved on from it. In fact, across every chapter of his career on the field and beyond, he has spoken openly about how much he owes to Sterling. When Shannon was enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2011, he stood on that stage with tears in his eyes and said, "If it weren't for my big brother, I wouldn't be here today." He added, "I am the only player in the Hall of Fame who can say truthfully that he was the second best football player in his own family." Just think about that, Hall of Famer calling himself number 2. Shannon had spent years fighting to see Sterling's legacy properly honored. He pressed media figures, challenged Hall of Fame voters, cited his brother's stats during televised debates, and yet every year Sterling's name was passed over for Canton. Until now, in a stunning development that shook the NFL world, it was revealed that Sterling Sharpe had once again been nominated for the Hall of Fame's Senior Committee review, and this time, insiders strongly believed the vote would finally go his way. The moment Shannon had been praying for was now becoming real. But this wasn't just about validation in the football world, it was deeply personal. This wasn't about debate show views. This wasn't about Skip Bayless. And it definitely wasn't just about ESPN, this was about family. And right as ESPN executives were finalizing a massive deal to bring Shannon on board full-time with expanded control over Club Shay Shay, consistent appearances on First Take, and even talks of developing a standalone segment just for him, Shannon took a pause. He needed time because if Sterling was finally going to be enshrined where he rightfully belonged, Shannon had to be there, front and center, not as a media personality, but as a proud little brother. And that's when the power dynamic shifted. Shannon was no longer moving from a place of desperation. He had nothing left to prove. With his brother's long-awaited honor finally on the horizon, Shannon understood he could walk away from anything that didn't reflect his values. So when ESPN came forward with their offer, Shannon had one last condition. He said, "Let me do this on my terms." Because if his brother's name was about to be etched in the Hall of Fame, he wasn't going to be stuck behind a desk debating over contracts. He would be in Canton, front row, where he belonged. ESPN agreed. But behind that powerful, emotional moment, a much darker truth was waiting to explode, one involving leaked documents, internal tension, and betrayal. Something that would permanently alter Shannon's relationship with ESPN. Everything appeared to be falling into place for Shannon Sharpe. He had the fans in his corner, the media on speed dial. And finally, after years of pain awaiting his brother, Sterling was being honored. The ESPN deal seemed like the final victory. But beneath the polished studio lights and inside ESPN's corporate walls, a quiet storm was already building. After his experience at FS1 with Skip Bayless being cut off, dismissed, and disrespected, Shannon approached his ESPN negotiations with surgical precision. This time around, he made sure every detail was covered. He demanded full ownership of Club Shay Shay, editorial control over his segments, a tightly structured exit clause to protect his rights, and most controversially, a non-compete clause that would allow him to walk away if he ever felt disrespected. Again, it was a bold, calculated power play. One that didn't sit well with everyone inside ESPN. Some executives viewed Shannon as a wild card, rising outsider who had climbed the ladder too quickly. Others believed his style was too raw, too emotional, or simply too black for ESPN's polished corporate image. Still, ESPN signed the deal. But then the leak happened out of nowhere. A highly sensitive internal document revealing Shannon's salary details, contract terms, and private email conversations with ESPN legal counsel was leaked to a well-known sports gossip blog. And this wasn't just a basic contract summary. It included screenshots of confidential emails in which Shannon raised concerns about racial bias, content control, and his struggles with mental health, especially after the verbal shots from Skip. Those private concerns were laid bare. The blog published it all line by line. Suddenly, the entire world had access to Shannon's private negotiations, his battle with anxiety, and even his expressed intention to leave ESPN if he ever felt boxed in like he did at FS1. It was not only humiliating, it was dangerous. The leak painted Shannon as egotistical, demanding, and high maintenance. Trolls swarmed his social media. Speculation ran wild. Some said Shannon had leaked the contract himself for publicity. Others claimed jealous insiders at ESPN were behind the sabotage. Shannon, however, remained silent for several days, but that silence wasn't weakness. He quietly began his own investigation behind closed doors. What he discovered shocked him. A tip came from a former ESPN staffer who pointed to a media strategy consultant, third-party advisor tied to ESPN's parent company who had full access to internal files and email chains. This consultant, insiders claimed, was working in close collaboration with other on-air talent who saw Shannon's rise as a threat. Yes, other hosts, including some who shared the same studio space with Shannon. The betrayal hit hard. These weren't just coworkers, they were individuals he had shared laughter, airtime, and trust with. Now, they were part of the leak. ESPN's PR department went into crisis mode, scrambling to control the situation. They summoned Shannon. For a closed-door meeting, apologies were issued. Lawyers got involved. A revised contract was put on the table, but Shannon wasn't sold. "I've been the underdog my entire life," Shannon reportedly told them during that meeting. "You think this is what's going to break me? You don't know the pain I've come from." Still shaken by the betrayal, Shannon pulled back from the spotlight. Not long after, Club Shay Shay episodes began dropping sporadically. His tone on air shifted. The energy fell off, the fire was fading. And while ESPN scrambled to repair the damage with spin tactics, PR control, and public statements, Shannon quietly began working on a contingency plan. One that would once again reshape the landscape of sports media. Because Shannon Sharpe wasn't just another analyst anymore, he was a force, a brand, and now he was getting ready to go fully independent while calling out every person who tried to tear him down. Shannon Sharpe had faced pressure before from poverty, from racism, from injuries, and from Skip Bayless, but this betrayal cut differently. This time, the knives didn't come from opponents. They came from the inside, from the very circle he'd been welcomed into. Still, Shannon didn't panic. He moved with precision. While ESPN scrambled in the background to contain the backlash, Shannon was already making calls not to agents, not to legal reps, but to his people, his real people. Because Shannon Sharpe wasn't just a talking head on television, he had strong ties to some of the biggest names in sports, entertainment, and media, and he was about to remind the entire world that Club Shay Shay was bigger than ESPN, bigger than Skip, and bigger than the business itself. The master plan? Total independence. Shannon started laying out the foundation for what insiders now refer to as the She Shay Empire. The core strategy: fully independent production, his own streaming and content network, high-profile, exclusive interviews, no filters, no censorship, no corporate middlemen. But this wasn't just about ambition. Shannon had the receipts. His explosive interview with Cat Williams shattered the internet, drawing in over 70 million views across platforms. The message was undeniable. He didn't need ESPN. ESPN needed him. Shannon reached out to major media investors and power players, many of whom had appeared on Club Shay Shay themselves, names like Steve Harvey, Snoop Dogg, and even LeBron James camp, and they quietly backed him. "You've got the voice, the audience, and the realness," one billionaire reportedly told him. "Cut the cord. The people will follow," and they did. Shannon began redirecting Club Shay Shay's traffic to platforms under his own control: YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, all monetized, all operated by him. Behind the scenes, He filed new trademarks and assembled a production team that answered to no one but him. He even turned down ESPN's offer to collaborate on a joint platform. He wanted it his way, raw, unfiltered, and unapologetically black, but Shannon didn't stop there. What began as quiet celebrity backing soon became loud public support. When the leak scandal first hit, many ESPN personalities stayed silent, fearful of the corporate backlash. But Shannon's bold decision to go rogue gave others courage. One by one, celebrities began speaking up. Cat Williams reposted the leaked contract materials, adding the caption, "You tried to ruin him, now he's about to own you." Steve Harvey took to his radio show and said, "Let me tell you something, Shannon is the most real dude in media right now." ESPN messed with the wrong one. Snoop Dogg sent Shannon a private message that would eventually leak. "Fix some suits, Unc. We buildin' a new table." Even NBA stars began to chime in. From Yale Morant to Jason Tatum, athletes started tagging Shannon on social media, calling him the only voice out there speaking the truth. Meanwhile, Club Shay Shay began airing episodes that had never received ESPN's approval, raw, uncut, and packed with bold, controversial content. One episode even featured an exclusive sit-down with a former ESPN host who exposed racism within the network. The message couldn't have been clearer. Shannon Sharpe was officially downplayed by the corporate rulebook. This was the ultimatum, Shannon's final stand against SB. By this point, panic had fully set in among ESPN executives. Shannon's content was outshining their primetime shows. His Instagram clips alone were pulling more views than first, taking it up combined. And the worst part? He was doing all of this without them. In a scramble to stop the damage, ESPN came back to the table, offering Shannon a massive new deal, more money, more creative freedom, and even a private apology. But Shannon turned it all down. Instead, he delivered his own public ultimatum live on Club Shay Shay. "I ain't mad, I'm not bitter, but I'm not your pawn. If you think I'll shrink just to sit at your table, baby, I'll go build my own damn house." The room went still. That moment instantly went viral. Celebrities, athletes, and fans began flooding ESPN's comments with the hashtag Shay UNCHAINED. This was no longer about a contract, it had become a movement. As we bring this chapter of Shannon Sharpe's emotional exit from ESPN to a close, one truth stands out above all. This wasn't just about leaving a job, it was about reclaiming legacy, stepping into personal growth, honoring family, and above everything else, fulfilling a deeper purpose. Shannon didn't walk away from a platform like ESPN to fade into the background. He walked towards something greater, a new era where his voice carries more weight, where his influence runs deeper, and where his bond with the audience feels more powerful and personal than ever before. And the timing of Sterling Sharpe's return to the spotlight? That wasn't just a coincidence. It felt symbolic, almost poetic. It was as though both Sharpe brothers, in their own powerful ways, were finally receiving the recognition and respect they had long deserved and fought for. Shannon's heartfelt acknowledgement of Sterling's success is a reminder that no matter how bright the spotlight may get, your roots are built in quiet moments with the people who knew you before the fame. Whether you're here for the sports analysis, the cultural commentary, or the raw, unfiltered honesty, there's one thing you can always count on Shannon to deliver. This journey? It's just getting started. There are more truths to uncover, more milestones to reach, and more stories to share. So now we ask you, was Shannon Sharpe's departure from ESPN the right move? Did ESPN underestimate just how much cultural weight he truly carries? And what does Sterling's milestone mean for the Sharpe family legacy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this video gave you a new perspective, hit that like button and make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next update. And share this with someone who needs to hear the truth behind the headlines, because as you've just witnessed, what's said after the cameras stop rolling often speaks the loudest of all.